Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Moti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satguru Pranatoshmaham Om Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om, Namaste. We lost Sylvia, and we'll see if she's going to come back. So the verse 3 to 4, only a qualified person can confidentially claim that he is that original limitless consciousness, which is a reflection, the subtle body, as we know, and it reflects as the I am, the aham, I am, I exist, the I sense. So this I sense experienced by each one of us is the only self there is. The I sense shining in the subtle body, producing the sense I am, I exist, and I know that I am, I know that I exist, is the only self there is. So that's all we have to understand here. There is only one self. It shines as human consciousness, okay? So, and this human consciousness in truth is that original limitless consciousness in its essence, okay? So the reflected consciousness is, and it is not limited, is if we take ourselves to be a phenomenon, okay? If we take ourselves to be the wave, but it isn't if we take ourselves to be the ocean, or even better, pure water, pure limitless water. So it depends on what? Depends on how we define ourselves. So after all, Vedanta is a question of identity. We need to define ourselves properly so that we can present ourselves to ourselves in the right way. I mean, we don't want to go around presenting ourselves to other people and say, oh, I am a limitless consciousness. How about you? No, we don't want to do that. We want to present ourselves to ourselves, say, okay, now I understood what the Upanishads are trying to tell me. And okay, now I know I am that limitless self, the only self there is, of non-dual nature. Here comes Sylvia. And so all these Mahavakyas, it is different repetitions of the same concept. We have to understand those are the final teachings, therefore, once we went through all the scriptures, preparing, refining the mind, therefore, that is the ultimate truth, okay? So you are that limitless self, consciousness, existence, and then either we accept it or we do not accept it. So in order to accept, we need to accept the authority of the Upanishads, the authority of those statements contained in the Upanishad. We need to listen to that and say, I trust this scripture. I have tried all other ways to solve this sense of smallness, inadequacy, and limitation. And now this Upanishads is saying that I am limitless consciousness, and the limitation applies only to my inferior nature. So I, my true superior nature, I am limitless. I'm not bound by time and space. So now I understood, and now I can claim to myself that I am that limitless consciousness. So we need to accept, but we begin by accepting the Vedas and Vedanta and the Upanishads. They are the best authority in the matter of self-inquiry and self-knowledge. There is no other source that is going to disclose to us, reveal to us the logic to support those statements. So the Vedas, the Vedanta, the Upanishads, is the most sophisticated authority, and I would say the complete body of knowledge, which represents an authority in terms of self-inquiry and self-knowledge. Okay, so if we don't have that regards towards these teachings of Vedanta, and then the teachings are not going to work for us. Why? Because we're going to be related with doubts and not trust. One of the qualifications is trust, Shraddha in the scriptures. So we need to accept the Upanishad as the authority in reference to the nature of the self and the process of self-discrimination, self-inquiry, and by which we develop discrimination, dispassion, and disciplines until we come to a complete understanding / vision of non-duality, as taught by a teacher. A teacher Vedanta can confidentially state, I am that limitless consciousness. Any fool can say that, but that does not mean anything. So again, when we claim it, we claim for ourselves. When we announce it, we announce to ourselves. We are not here looking for recognition or validation, the love and the respect from the world. We are here just to be free from the world. If we want to get this or that, especially respect from the world, it means that we will never be free from the world because we are depending on something from the world. We attribute reality to the world. So no, we are not here to announce anything to the world. We are here just to quietly accept these final statements that I am that original consciousness. They are the same. So in which way this statement is right? We need to understand the complete meaning of such statements. In which sense they reflect I and the original I are the same, and in which sense they are not really the same. So they are the same in that both are consciousness. Consciousness before it somehow reflects in a reflecting medium, and consciousness after it has bounced in a reflecting medium. So you see any insect, you see that there is a living being moved by reflected consciousness. I see it in the insects, in the animals, and the ants and the chicken, the fish. We can tell that there is consciousness operating there as a living creature, a living being. So we see that and we know, oh, this fish is consciousness, okay? So too bad this fish does not inquire in its own nature. Otherwise, I would have very nice satsangs with my fishes here, you understand, without the need of internet and anything. But no, they are not to that point of inquiry, So in which way this reflect consciousness, this human consciousness, because the human consciousness is the only one who comes to this existential question. So what the heck am I doing here? And what is this I? What is this self I experience? So a person who does not understand the relationship between the real, because the original consciousness is real and the reflected consciousness is apparently real, and then that could create some trouble to some people. But then we need to understand that the statements that this reflect consciousness is that original consciousness. We need to understand that it is truthful. It is an absolute truth, but at the same time, it's not true. In which way it is true and which way it's not true depends on how I take myself to be. You understand? If I take myself, the reflected consciousness, the human consciousness, the human mind, and the body and the mind, if I take myself to be the real self, and then this statement is going to be false for me. I can say I am that limitless Brahman, but I'm still taking myself to be this time-bound phenomenon called original reflected consciousness, or the body-mind construct. And then from that standpoint of identity, it's false, the statement, I am that limitless consciousness. But from that standpoint, that same standpoint from the Jiva Atma, if the Jiva Atma understood its essential, pure nature as original consciousness, and then that statement is absolutely correct, truthful. Yeah? And then we can say, I am that original consciousness. Again, the sample, the analogy of the ocean and the wave is the most beautiful and simple to illustrate this condition. So if the waves would have some sort of a mind, they could inquire and they could come to the conclusion that basically they are the ocean, and more fundamentally, they are just the water of the ocean. Okay, and then some waves could say, no, I am the water, therefore I have no concern about the limitation, the time-bound limitation of this formation, this namarupa called this wave, because I understood my fundamental essential nature. So, but if this wave does not have that knowledge, understanding, it's going to be living in affliction, because sooner or later it's going to crash on the shore, on the beach, and it's going to end its existence as a specific wave. So it only depends on where we stand as identity. Therefore, a person who does not understand the relationship between its essential free nature and its apparent limited nature, is not going to be able to understand the difference. So in that case, the person may claim it, but it's going to be fake. Yet not enjoy. If it's fake, what happens with somebody who fakes it? The person may say it, but the knowledge is academic. The knowledge is theoretic knowledge. It's just intellectual knowledge, and then the person is not going to enjoy the fruits of this statement, the fruits of this declaration, self-declaration. Now I got it, I am that limitless consciousness, but still I'm not enjoying the fruits of this recognition. So if the person is not enjoying the fruits of this understanding, it means that understanding is not really what we call a paroksha jnana. It's direct and immediate seeing, for a lack of better expression. So a direct and immediate seeing that, oh yes, now I understood the most simple thing. I am this conscious existence. So when this knowledge is direct, and then it does not give any room for any doubt in respect to your true identity, only then the Jiva Atma begins enjoying the fruits of such a recognition. But if recognition is only on the intellectual level, and then there are doubts, there are suspiciousness, undermining the possibility of this intellectual self-knowledge to be converted into direct and immediate self-knowledge. So the fruits depends on this, which in the language of Ramji and China world would be the difference between self-recognition and self-realization, self-actualization. So the actualization is the fructification of self-realization. Self-realization can be an event in time as an epiphany, or it may be just a firm intellectual understanding, but yet did not fructify as self-actualization, because now I have internalized this knowledge, and this knowledge is a doubtless understanding, a doubtless firm self-knowledge. No, we are not after any special status here in Vedanta. A person who desires an elevated status looks to the opinions of others for validation. So what kind of freedom is freedom if you depend on something else? If you depend on other factors? No, the only freedom there is the freedom of being totally free from any other factor, independent of any other factor. And you can only be free if you know what that which the only free principle in the universe, which is the consciousness, the existence on which all these phenomena, all these namarupas, all this superimposition of time, people, place, events, is project. So there is something that is free from this changing move of events and configurations, and that is the mirror of consciousness, or the screen of consciousness on which this projection from Maya, Isvara, emerges or appears. So if you want to have the word to validate the self, your own self, and then this self is not really free. Yeah? And furthermore, how can something that is not real validate something that's real? This is the most funny kind of thing. You know, how can something that is not real, like the world, the people out there, the opinions of people like that, how can something out there which is not real can validate reality, you know? So if you say, I am the self, and then you need to imply the statement, the only reality. And now I want the world, which is unreal, to validate my essence, my nature, which is the only reality. Okay, so these are all signs that the person is suffering from a sense of smallness, and is trying to compensate it by dreaming to be validated and respected and adored by the world as a great Mahatma, great enlightened being. It can only be validated by the removal of ignorance, So what is going to validate our true self is the scriptures, because the scripture is a tool revealed to us to validate our true nature as the self. Okay, and no, but the teachings is mithya. Yes, but it is not, because it comes from the self. It's just a composition of words and concepts that reveals the satya aspect of the universe to yourself. It reveals satya to satya itself. So it comes from reality, although it manifests as words, okay, and concepts. But you need to have words and concepts to remove words and concepts. You cannot remove words and concepts with something else other than words and concepts. You understand? So you have a problem with misidentification, misconcepts that somehow wrapped you up in samsara, and you feel really bad. So people are going to say, okay, take this and this antibiotic, or take this and this, kind of medicine or treatment or massage or acupuncture. Now, none of this is going to remove the misconceptions you have about yourself. You need, Claudio appearing here. I hope he's not, that's his long time. You only need more concepts. Is this the analogy of you go into the forest and then you stick a thorn in your foot, and then it's very deeply, and then the thing broke inside, and now you need another thorn. I think the thorn is the word. Espinho went into your foot. What is the name of the espinho? The thorn that went into your foot, and then you need another thorn to pull that off. What is the proper English word?
I think thorn is the word.
Right. Thank you. Sometimes I don't have enough self-confidence in my English. Hello, Claudio. Did you wait too long? A little bit.
Not a problem.
Okay. So claiming the status I am that limitless consciousness, yeah, without complete understanding, knowledge is not liberation. So this again, it's different words to make a distinction between self-knowledge and moksha. Moksha translates to liberation, and liberation is not self-recognition or self-knowledge. Okay, so you may have self-knowledge, but still you are not free from this fundamental ignorance that even looks for validation from the unreal. So without this proper assimilation of this knowledge, you are not going to enjoy this so-called moksha, or liberation that in Shine words, in Shine world, it's presented as something subsequent to self-recognition or self-knowledge. You understand? So you are free from what? I mean, these are concepts. Now, in the language of Swami Paramarthananda, one thing is self-knowledge, and self-knowledge is made out of recognition or understanding purely, period, okay? And then whether you are still having trouble, with the world, having conflict, whether you are not completely free from ignorance, therefore you are getting yourself in trouble here and there, is a different thing, okay? And Swami Paramarthananda makes it very clear. No, one thing is self-recognition, but if you don't enjoy the fruits of self-knowledge, you better work on further develop some qualifications and go back to Karma Yoga, you understand, to understand how to behave and how to interact with the world. So that is the concept here. So liberation is to be free from the ignorance that produce suffering, produce conflict, produce samsara. So if there is still some bits and pieces of ignorance there, so one better addresses it. Okay, go back, understands the teachings of karma, dharma, and observe, remains vigilant and sees those triggers that somehow brings about this ignorance, with appearing as strong reactions or fears and desires that pops up and takes one up. So all of that has to be, gradually purified or resolved after the self-recognition to be doubtless self-knowledge, you understand? So the process of purification or neutralization of residual ignorance, it happens gradually, as I said, and naturally, but the person needs to be vigilant, alert, to keep a certain relationship with the scriptures, and preferably with a teacher, with a good guru that could help one to remain very vigilant, and further enjoy, because our purpose is to enjoy the fruits of this self-knowledge. We don't want to get the self-knowledge and then I suffer. And then you can come back and say, it doesn't matter. I'm not my conflicts. I'm not my vasanas. I'm not my suffering. I'm the self, and my self-knowledge is firm. But we are here to enjoy our self-knowledge, right? Vedanta is an independent means of knowledge, like the self. The self is totally independent from Mithya. Vedanta as well is an independent means of knowledge, is a means of knowledge which is a pramana, which does not require another means, okay? So what are the means of knowledge usually we have? Is perception and inference, okay? There are some other means of knowledge, like the testimonial of someone who is presenting to you, okay, a certain event, and likewise there are some other means of knowledge, but including the process of education, etc., etc. But generally speaking, so you gain knowledge through this five senses, the organs of reception, the organs of action, through this stimulus and response, we extract knowledge, and then we can infer. We can infer as well and construct knowledge of things that are beyond our direct sensory contact, access. So Vedanta, it says, is an independent means of knowledge, which does not require other means of knowledge, such as experience, for example, to validate it. Now, this goes to anyone who believes that, okay, I am the self, I got it with the help of the Vedanta scriptures or Upanishads, and I believe it, okay? But it would be nice to have an experience that validates it, that can prove to me that I am limitless self, okay? So how can someone wait for an experience which is mithya, bound by time and so on, and space? How can one expect an experience to validate something that is the self, the only reality, okay? So the self is independent and does not require any validation by any other factor, okay? Experience, for example, and it's a pramana, it's a means of knowing yourself, okay? Which is beyond the sense organs and inference. Although the body of knowledge called Vedanta use sense perception and inference, okay? But Vedanta is not limited or dependent on these self perceptions and inference, okay? Why? Because it's the knowledge of something which is always ever present, shining in the intellect of anyone doing this search, doing this seeking, you understand? It's so immediately and directly available that there is no real means of a body of knowledge to reveal it, because it's self-revealing. And then what Vedanta does something that sometimes I tend to present as it indirectly reveals one's true nature as the self. Okay, the knowledge is direct, it's immediate, but the process of revealing this is a gradual process, indirectly done by the removal of wrong notions we have about this self, okay? So Vedanta is all about examining experience and removing wrong notions, but then self-recognition, self-knowledge, and Vedanta ultimately is the final declaration of the Upanishads, okay? When it says that you are that limitless Brahman, okay? So there is no question of any perception inference in there. There is no question of examining your identity or your experience in the world as the process done through most of the texts. We examine experience, okay? So we use a lot of this perception and experience-based analysis to bring us to the point of removing the doubts, removing the wrong notions, okay? And then what is self-knowledge? Self-knowledge is when we really, we have no longer doubts and we accept those declarations of the Upanishads without any resistance, okay? And without any vanity, of course, as well. Therefore, Vedanta is an independent means of knowledge. It does not depend on any experience. The eyes do not need the ears to validate what the eyes see beautiful. So the eyes is a pramana. So it's a means of knowledge. It's a means of experience. We're going to interact. We're going to contact the world through the eyes. So it is a pramana. It's a means by which we see the colors and the forms of the universe. So it is beautiful, and it's one of the best sense we have. But the eyes do not need the ears, okay? You eyes say, okay, I see, okay, this seems to be a beautiful tree, but what if I'm wrong? So let me ask the ears here to see if the ears can confirm it to me. So let me use my nose to get a better understand, to see if it can be confirmed, okay? So no, the data is an independent means of knowledge that does not depend of any sense organ to validate it. So therefore, experience is not needed. Experience is not needed. And this is something that sometimes it not only turns off most of the people interested in self-knowledge, really interested in self-knowledge, where it says experience does not mean anything here, okay? And then the person, oh, okay, then it's only philosophy, okay? Oh, it's only theory, because people naturally, they believe that it is an experience that's going to transform me. Isn't it, Lert?
Yes, I think the majority, and we spent a lot of time when we are seeking in this idea. We grow with that.
Yeah, we come from that soup. We are experience seekers. Before we are looking for experience, mundane experience, and now we want a spiritual experience, and then we hope that some experience will come and remain forever. An experience of peace and love and bliss, and even an experience that brings about a certain understanding that I am consciousness, okay? Because I have met people that I always ask this question, but this experience of enlightenment you had, did it come with understanding that you are consciousness? Oh, yes. But then later on, I was not having the conviction anymore. So it could be even that the person is having an experience that influence one's cognition in terms of one's very identity, but then it goes into forgetfulness. So we need that self-knowledge, which is not dependent on experience, and it's not subject to forgetfulness. And here it says that sometimes a spiritual experience can appear to validate that the I is the self. Although during a particular spiritual experience, the knowledge of the nature of the self may arise. In fact, the spiritual experience almost invariably leaves the limited I intact as one's identity. Yeah, so we think that epiphany, you may get the knowledge, but the knowledge fades. In fact, the spiritual experience almost invariably leaves the limited I intact. So the sense of identity of I am this limited body-mind complex comes back because the fundamental ignorance can only be removed by the removal of those misleading notions we have about ourselves, which can only be neutralized by knowledge, and knowledge is the scriptural knowledge. Only knowledge is the only remedy for ignorance, and that goes for all kinds of ignorance. Even if it seems experientially that I is limitless during a certain experience of ayahuasca or whatever, here in Brazil, there are a lot of people crazy with ayahuasca. Have you heard of ayahuasca, Lynn? Okay. So even if I have a limitless particular experience, the I will appear to be limited and create a doubt once the experience ceases. Okay. Only a valid means of knowledge for consciousness can verify one's limitlessness. We need a proper pramana, which is a means of knowledge that can allow me to recognize my limitless nature. I can verify that I am limitless consciousness. How so? A body of knowledge that analyzes, to begin with, my experience, which was not properly examined, And then in the light of this knowledge, I re-examine my experience until I have no doubt that my true I, my true nature is the limitless consciousness, not the mind. So the process is all about, re-examining experience, and using inferential knowledge as well, to remove those wrong notions about what I am. Vedanta is such a means, such a pramana. The third Mahavakya, now we enter in the third Mahavakya. Now he's pulling one Mahavakya from each one of the Vedas, only one, I believe one or two, I don't remember. But anyhow, the third Mahavakya here is the most, one of the very famous, is Tattvamasi, which is you are that, you are that, Tattvamasi. It takes from the verse 7 of the Chandogya Upanishad of the Samaveda. So the verse 5 to 6 is going to elaborate. Okay, what is the verse? The verse is only, you are that. I'm not seeing the verse here in the book, Inquiry into Existence. It does not show, no? Okay. I'm kind of becoming old style. I like to see the verse and then see how it unfolds. So, okay, this mantra, this Mahavakya, you are that. If the verse used the pronoun this instead of that, so a lot of people may think like you are that. So if that and this is the same, why we don't say you are this? Because it means this consciousness. And why not to use you are this consciousness? Okay. So it says that the verse used the pronoun this instead of that. If it will use this instead of that, so it could create a confusion. We could try to, we could be misled to understand that this consciousness is that consciousness, meaning to say if this reflected consciousness is that consciousness. It says like you are that. It does not say you are this, because this is reflected consciousness. And then we're going to need to break it down to understand that why they use that and what it means that and what it means you. Because as you know, as we know, you and that immediately presents a problem, because you and that so appears to have space, time, and two principles, you and that. So in which way we can say you equal to that is something that is illogical unless we understand the implied meaning, the intended meaning of you and that. So if we use this instead of that, you might reasonably think that reflect consciousness that you experience always is the self. But the word that indicates spatial and temporal remoteness. So it can only refer to consciousness, to Brahman, to Isvara, the creator consciousness, jagat karanam. That has made your subtle body out of itself and reflects on it as your ordinary reflected consciousness, your ordinary awareness, as your ordinary awareness. But there is no obvious connection between that and me. So that consciousness and me, ordinary awareness. So we need to look into the implied meaning, laksharta, implied meaning or intended meaning. Okay, intended meaning. What is the intended meaning or the implied meaning? If the time limitation is removed, the word that refers to what? So that refers to what? To limitless, beginningless consciousness, timeless, yeah, which is beginningless, no, and spatialless, and spatialless is not apply. The timeless and beginningless consciousness. Yeah? It has no time, it's not time bound, no? And it's beyond space. So it has no past, present, and future. By simile, but simile becomes limited when it's associated with Maya and the three bodies, which is in time. So, and then we have time, we have the three bodies, and then consciousness is going to reflect on the subtle body. And then we have you, this consciousness, okay? And now this consciousness which reflect is said to be limitless by nature, not limited as it seems to appear. The direct meaning of you, you or that, you is consciousness associated with Maya. So you, Claudio, you, Claudius, human consciousness, Claudius, reflected consciousness. You are limitless, timeless consciousness, okay? But you think that you are time-bound, reflected consciousness or human consciousness that's going to disappear with once the body goes back to its elements. So no, it says that you, you are that. You, the direct meaning of you is consciousness associated with Maya, okay? So you, reflect consciousness, you, human consciousness. But if you drop the idea, this is very important. But when we say you are that, but if you drop the idea that you are the body mind, here it's going to go like I am the body. Because the I am the body has a huge problem attached to it, which is the time limitation. So the body does not last long, okay? And if I take the I to be the body, this I is going to be under the fear of non-existence, of losing its existence, okay? So if we drop the idea I am the body, and then it becomes much easier for me to accept my timeless nature, okay? The body was born and grows, gets old, and dies. If I drop the idea I am the body, so I'm just freeing myself from the limitation of time, okay? Time is no longer a problem, okay? And then if I drop the idea that I am the mind, okay, I'm also dropping a huge sense of limitation regarding to what I know in the world, okay? So, and the sense that, oh, I'm small, inadequate, and incomplete. So it goes because I drop the idea that I am this flux of thoughts. I cannot define myself by the mind. So the body mind, if I drop the sense that I am the body mind, and then this statement begins making sense because I start moving towards my limitless nature. I'm not limited by the limitations of the mind, and I'm not limited by the time limitation of the body. So I just need to drop that so we understand the intended meaning of you are that, you and that. Okay, the intended meaning is consciousness associated with time, but if you drop the idea I am the body, which is an incidental attribute of consciousness, you regain your original identity as timeless consciousness. The implied meaning or the intended meaning of you, though, is timeless consciousness, just as the implied meaning of that is timeless consciousness. Here it presents as existence, okay? Why? Because you will say the implied meaning of you in the statement you are that, you, the implied meaning is not the limited body, and the limited mind. The implied meaning is timeless consciousness, okay? And just as the implied meaning of that is presented here as timely existence, because this you, which is consciousness, wants to enjoy also your timeless existence. You want to exist forever as well. You understand? So the whole thing about understand that you are that is to understand that you are limitless consciousness and you are existence, the only existence, meaning to say you lose your body mind, but you don't lose your existence, okay? So you are that sat and that chit. You are that timeless existence, meaning to say, oh, not only I am timeless consciousness, but I am that as well, and that goes to Sat. I am that timeless existence, and that removes the notion that if I lose my body-mind, I may lose my existence. Okay, now I am the very timeless existence that somehow, you know, concedes existence to the body-mind construct, you know. As we have already established, timeless existence and timeless consciousness are the same thing. So and then you are that, yeah. You is timeless Brahman, and that is timeless Brahman. And in order for you to know that you are timeless, limitless Brahman, you understand? You need to make your identity or straighten your identity, your sense of identity from matter energy to the spirit essence of your being. Well, it's all very simple, you know. And then you know that you, Claudio, you are Brahman. Oh, really? Yes, you are Brahman. And you need to understand what you means and what Brahman means as well. That pure consciousness, therefore, is available in the body of the person as the existence obtaining in the body. In fact, the body obtains in existence. So the existence of the body, which is matter, is gained by the Sat aspect of Brahman, because any and everything that exists from the only source of existence. There is only one existence, and that is the Sat aspect of Brahman. Okay, so now the consciousness is not really visible in the body. So if we take any construct without a subtle body, we're going to see the Sat aspect of Brahman there, but we are not going to see any sentience being demonstrated. There is no reflected consciousness. Okay, so here we are saying that the existence of Brahman, the Sat aspect of Brahman, gives existence to the body, and then the consciousness of Brahman concedes consciousness to the subtle body, physical body, subtle body. So the body-mind construct is borrowing, you know, is borrowing Sat and Chit consciousness in the mental level and Sat existence in the physical level. Okay, so everything exists from the only existence there is, and every conscious creature enjoys consciousness from the only consciousness there is. So I am Sat Chit Ananda. I am conscious existence of limitless nature. Therefore, I am that only Brahman, one without a second. When you hear this teaching, therefore, you need to convert the word you into I. Yeah? So this is the teaching. Yeah? You are that. And then we need to do our nididhyasana, and then gradually we need to do what Lynn was mentioning the other day. You need to fake it until you make it. Because you say you are that, you are still keeping yourself outside as an outsider, okay? And then you say, oh, no, I'm going to join the party. I am that consciousness. I am that Brahman. So we hear that, and then we develop intellectual confidence in the teachings, and then we start kind of applying it, saying, yes, I am that limitless Brahman, even if sometimes it may feel a little funny, but slowly, slowly, it's going to make sense, and one will understand that indeed the statements are correct. Although pure consciousness has no parts, it seems to have 5 components: original consciousness, reflected consciousness, the gross physical body, the reflecting medium, the subtle body, and the causal body. Only original consciousness is real. The other 4 components are just unreal or apparently real. When you use the word I, you should know that this I refers to your true, fundamental, essential nature as consciousness, limitless consciousness. So you understand that what we are is a cocktail of original consciousness, Maya, we can throw Maya in there, Isvara, the 3 bodies, you understand? And then within the 3 bodies, we have the most beautiful phenomenon there is, which is a living creature, a living conscious creature, okay? Which is reflect consciousness, which is the Jiva Atma, the Jiva self. The Jiva self is the self. It appears in association with original consciousness, Maya, and then the 3 bodies, okay? And then I just take my original essence, my original consciousness to be real, and the others as just instruments by which I can experience duality. I can experience this apparent order of reality. Without this reflected consciousness, without Maya, without reflected consciousness, without the gross body, without the subtle body and the causal body, I cannot experience duality. But appears, it so happens that I am here, and then I better understand what is this instrument of experience. So this instrument of experience is made of a composition of a few components, so to speak, okay? So if you are made of parties, and then you have to understand which of those parties you're going to identify with. If you identify with those parties which are totally limited by time, for example, okay? So you're going to develop a sense of identity that is going to produce suffering and discomfort, okay? Because nobody likes to live within an identity of inadequacy and smallness and the limitation and so on. So it's a very serious affair to know how to identify and define yourself properly. So if there is something that's made of parts, you have to look for what the best part of you. So just choose the best of you. So what is the best of you? In terms of psychology, we hear those things, just do your best to make the best of everything and pull the best of you to find a solution here. So we need to pull the best of us before we really establish our identity. So consciousness is now made of party, okay? But the Jiva Atma appears to be made of party, and it is made of party. Jiva Atma cannot exist without the 3 bodies and Maya and so on, and reflect consciousness, which is the byproduct of this composition. So, and then we need to understand that I, myself, the Jiva Atma, this reflect consciousness, I'm made of a few different parties or components. Consciousness is a partless whole, but the phenomenon reflected consciousness depends on certain parts or components, okay? So, and there is one part, which is the one I want to identify with, which is limitless and real. Sat, that which is and it's real, and it's limitless consciousness, Satchit. So the best part of me is the real part of me, okay? And the other components, they are just appearance, things that appear, show up to the party, and then disappear. They go. So I want to stay with my essential nature, that which is existing at all beyond time. Yeah. So when we use the word I should remember that I'm referring to pure limitless consciousness. When the mind always stays with the implied meaning of I, you are free. So what is moksha? Is to know that even if you say, oh my God, I'm hungry. So you know that the hunger refers to the physical body, you know? So I am excited. So that refers to the mind. The mind is excited, you understand? With some ideas or perspectives. So when you use the word I, we need to know exactly what is the implied meaning, meaning to say, what is this I? Although this I may refer to the limitations of these different components that makes a Jivatma. Yeah? So, and then I am free. I'm talking about the body, I'm talking about the mind, I'm talking about the subtle body, I'm talking about the physical body, and the, you know, I'm even talking about my vasanas, I'm talking about Maya, Isvara, but in everything, I know that the I am is a partless whole made of no parts or components. It's not easy to keep in mind this intended meaning to the I am that consciousness, to keep in mind at all times, because the mind, this reflected I, has been conditioned since birth to stay with the ostensible meaning, with the apparent meaning. The experiential meaning of the I is that of experiencing agents who experience limitation and the pair of opposites. So the I is so associated with its inferior nature that to bring the I back to its true fundamental free nature requires a little persistence. So the Mahavakyas do not exhort or imply action or experience. That's another point. They only indicate your identity. This word is asi, tatvamasi, asi. This word asi indicates the fact that the union of pure consciousness and reflect existence is a fact, not an event. So it's not an experience and it's not an event in time. Okay, it does not require a process of moving. That's why we say a paroksha jnana is a direct and immediate understanding that does not go through the process of experience or time and space. It's just a declaration of identity. Okay. That says you are limitless consciousness. You are that consciousness. Okay. It does not imply any action. It does not imply time. The mantra does not say that when the reflect I merges into consciousness with contacts or transcends the pure I, you are free. So all those notions of transcending the inferior I, and measuring the inferior I, the ego, into the self, all those notions, they are dangerous because they imply time, space, and experience, traveling, and so on. It's only a question of understanding the mantra to the point that you accept that as a direct recognition of the truthfulness of these statements. And then you are really free. Vedanta is said to be jnana yoga. All right, but it is a yoga of no contact. To quote one of our great sages, let's just finish this paragraph. So just to quote one of those Mahatmas, He said, if I remember well, it's not very long ago. Okay, we call it yoga, but yoga means connection, contact, going from here, there, time, space, and becoming something, or getting something, accomplish something, merging to something, transcending something into something else. All these notions, they are intrinsic in the yogas, the yogas of doing things to have a certain experience, and this experience usually is an experience of becoming a better me, which is okay, betterment, improvement, development. But when we come to the Yana Yoga, we say it's a yoga, but it's a yoga with no contact, meaning to say there is nothing other than I, the self, and I don't need to merge with the higher self, because there is only one self, and I am that self. So a yoga that by definition is defined as contact, or achieving, or reaching. Yoga have no contact, there is no duality involved. So the words Anubhava, which ostensibly means experience, but also means direct knowledge, aparoksha jnana, is a mischief maker. An experience-oriented person will simply miss the implied meaning, take the apparent meaning, ostensible meaning, and assume that something needs to be done to transcend the inferior self and merge into the superior self, and therefore get liberation. Okay, so it's not simple to erase these experience-oriented tendencies of the mind. You understand that, Claudio? It's not simple. I mean, it's simple to understand, but it's not so simple to eradicate those tendencies from our minds. You understand? You say, no, I need to really do something in order to get moksha. Yeah? So you cannot get free. Why you cannot get free? We all know the answer. Well, we need to understand that, because my nature is freedom. You cannot become limitless, because my nature is limitlessness. So I just need to claim that which the Upanishads are declaring in regards to my true identity, my true essence, nature. My nature, what I am, is a composition of different factors, and I need to hold on to the only real factor within that equation and establish my identity as the spirit, as Satchitananda. So is there anything that we need to do? Yes and no. Nothing needs to be done, because you're already free, but there is something that needs to be done, which is understanding it. Okay, and understanding is not an experience, it's immediate and direct paroksha jnana, which happens only when we have removed all the notions, the self-imposed limiting notions, and neutralize those notions until we have no doubt regards to what is my true identity. So there is no experience involved. You cannot get free because you're already free. You only need a teaching to remove the wrong notions, or to inform you of this fact. Some people, they just need to get the information immediately, they accept and they claim for themselves their true essential nature. Yeah. So you don't need teachings to motivate you to do things. In Vedanta, we never say do this, do that. There are teachers and teachers and teachers. Most teachers, they are teachers without teaching. And then there are some teachers that have some louse fragments of the teachings, and they call my teaching, my way. And then there are the teachers who teach the Upanishad. Okay, and that is the valid authority, the true, complete, and the extensive, elegant means of knowledge, which is not going to motivate you to do certain things, but will help you to understand what you are. Anything that you do, what's going to happen is going to reinforce the idea that you are the doer, the ego, who is doing things to get freedom. The only understanding that liberates is I am already free. I have been always free. But for that, we need to do what? Nididhyasana, Shravanam, Manana. So, is it action? Yes and no. Because inquiring, reflecting, contemplating on these statements is an intellectual doing. It's an intellectual action. And the intellectual action that ultimately is not going to produce an experience, but it's going to produce liberation. You understand? It's going to produce a hard and fast self-knowledge, a doubtless self-knowledge, which is not an experience, although it's going to change the way we experience the body-mind construct and the way we experience the world, okay? Experience and knowledge are one, but they are not the same. Experience and knowledge. So let's change this word knowledge by consciousness. So you need to have consciousness in order to experience the world. So experience and knowledge are one, but they are not the same. Experience depends on consciousness. So if you don't have consciousness, you don't have any experience. But consciousness does not depend on any experience. Okay? We don't depend on duality. We don't depend on objects to enjoy our limitless nature as consciousness. Okay? How do we know that? We just need to examine our deep sleep, that we don't have any experience really going on there except the experience of our non-dual nature. Okay? Okay, doc. Sorry to go over what time. We come back next Monday, beginning from verse 7 to 8. Any questions? Anything, any comments? Where is Mark? Oh, Mark is still there. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my dear friends. Namaste. We meet this coming Thursday with the Drigdrisha. We are concluding the Drigdrisha. And much love, big hug. See you next time, Isvara willing.
Thank you, Orlando.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Lindo.
Thank you. Bye now.